This is Nick from Boston, and this is the Katie Black Show.
What's up? Welcome to the Katie Black Show. I'm honored. Today I have with me
Miguel Fuller.
Miguel in the house from Hits 96.1. The Miguel and Holly mornings here in CLT, and obviously you can find them on iHeartRadio wherever you are located. But first of all, so many questions, but I always ask people, where were they born / where did they grow up?
Absolutely. So I was born in Atlanta, Georgia, but I spent the first 6 years of my life there, and then my mom met a guy, and she whisked us away to Denver, which all of my family was like, whoa, what? But then my mom somehow convinced my grandmother, my uncle, his wife, my cousins. She got a bunch of people from our family to move there, but then slowly they all went back to Atlanta. So we were there for 6 years, then went back to Atlanta, and I was there until college. And then I went away and have moved all around the Southeast since then.
Real quick, how did you adjust to the colds?
Because I was 6 when it happened, I was like just ready for an adventure. Like I remember when we took a budget van, we put all of our, my mom, she went out there first for like a month just to like see if, she would vibe with this guy, because this was in the early 90s when you couldn't internet stalk, like you just had to sort of figure it out. And so she went out there for a month. And I just remember my mom was gone. She came back and she was like, we're moving. And I was like, yay, because I was 6 years old. And we went the fall of, it was October, I want to say of 91, I think. And as soon as we got there, like we had to have like a coat, and it was long john pants and stuff that I didn't like back then. But I loved it because there was snow and we never got to see snow. So that was super exciting. The only thing that was a little, that sort of like a self-fulfilling prophecy for our whole move there, was the guy that my mom had moved out there for. I'd only met him once. Well, literally the night we drive into Denver, we meet him at his house. It was Halloween night. He comes out of the back room in like a Bigfoot costume. Remember, I'm 6 years old.
Right.
So I almost shit my pants because I was so scared. And I was like, where did you move us to? Who is this man? What is going on? So that was sort of how the whole thing started when we lived there. But I did adjust to the cold.
That is too funny. Yeah, I'm sure, especially as a kid, it being Halloween, that sticks.
Yes. Like I remember like us stopping at McDonald's, and they had like these like cartoony ghosts that they would give you, toys. And I just remember like playing with those, in the front seat. My mom would be like, would you shut up? It's a 2-day drive with a 6-year-old.
Yeah, and back then too, like again, going back to like generation stuff, which I'm obsessed with. No iPads, no phone. You had to do your own thing.
There was nothing. I mean, there wasn't even a way to look up radio stations. It was just like, you just had to hit scan, and this was a moving truck. So there probably wasn't even like a tape player to put something in. It was just like my mom, me, and like random radio stations across the country.
In your imagination.
Right, exactly. So like looking back on it now, I should probably apologize to my mom and be like, oh, I'm sorry. That had to be the most annoying 2 days of your life.
Oh, I love that story though. And real quick too, I put on some lipstick before this and I'm like, I think I'm giving like Lady Gaga 2008. So a little outdated, but that's okay.
No, not at all. I love it. Listen, everything that's old is new again.
That is right. I love that motto. Speaking of all that, so I'm obsessed with generations, specifically millennials, which I'm assuming you're in my category, babies born in between 1981 and 1996. And I know you kind of gave an example already, but just any thoughts of our generation or stereotypes you've heard?
Oh my gosh, 100%. I feel like we as millennials, because we grew up in a time to where all of our memories and when we became thinking human beings, it's been recorded because of the internet, and so we're the first generation that has access to like all these pictures and videos. Whereas you think about like our parents, like I was born in 85, my mom was born in 58. So like essentially she has like 10 or 12 pictures from when she was young. They didn't have access to music like we did. And so I feel like that's why we as millennials have such a strong sense of nostalgia, and why, what was it I was looking at the other day? Oh, there was like a picture of an old Pizza Hut. And I was like, oh, thinking about doing a little book it program and then going to get your free pizza and the little red cups and like the pizza buffet. And I was like, all the feels right there.
I connect. Yeah, very. I don't know. There are a lot of things. And I mean, I don't know if I always analyze too because I'm a big analyzer. I'm like, is it just, I mean, I know it can't be, but I wonder if it's just our generation that seems to be more nostalgic than others. I don't know how you feel about that, or.
I think so. I mean, I think just because like the world is so fucked up right now that we're looking for comfort. And like, this is like my sort of dirty little secret is, I work at a top 40 radio station. So we play the top 40, like what's new, and I've always been into the music that we play. And I've always said, I never wanted to be that old guy on a top 40 station who's like, who's this Rihanna? Who's this Lady Gaga? And I've always tried to make sure that I'm in the know. I know what's happening. But this is where I'm like, am I getting to be that age right now where since the pandemic, I don't listen to like, here's what's new, like they did on Spotify and stuff like that. I have constantly go back to old school music from the 90s. Like every morning when I'm putting the show together at like 4:00 in the morning, I'm listening to 90s, early 2000s R&B playlist, or even on the drive from work into home today, I was listening to old school Tina Turner, where it's like, I guess because the world is so fucked up that we're just looking for some sort of feeling of when things felt safe and when things felt okay. And like, maybe like I was bullied or, whatever childhood trauma we all have, that still has a sense of like, oh my God, remember going to Blockbuster on a Friday night and, getting to pick out 2 movies, but you had to get there early because the new movies would be gone, or then you had to watch something old, I just think that we're yearning for simpler times when it didn't feel like everything was so complicated.
Wow. I don't think anyone's ever like put it in a nutshell like that. I think that even for myself too, I'm like, the world is so fucked up. And I also too, like ask people on and off the mic, I'm like, they always say like things get worse before they get better. I'm like, is that the scenario? Like, is that what I'm trying to like look forward to? Is that it'll get worse before it gets better? Or is this just the new world order? Not to use that term. I don't know,
I constantly think about that. Like, I feel like since the pandemic, I've been in a state of how can I get out of this funk, out of this rut? Like when I look through pictures and videos from before, March 13th of 2020, when the world changed, it looked like I was having fun. I was at events. There was stuff going on. And there was like this movement toward the next thing, which I don't know what that is, if that was just us as a society or me as my own person. But I do get this sense of like, girl, we like it's fucked, and like there's nothing we can do about it when it comes to politics, when it comes to money, when it comes to where we are as millennials, when it's like, okay, we're now in our, for the upper end, early 40s, late 20s, that's where we all are. And it's like, none of us are in positions of leadership yet, really, when it comes to our jobs, or we're not decision makers when it comes to the political world. We're not in the place, and we're struggling to find, places, a house to live. Like, where's the upside? I guess we're breathing. So like, not to be like such a downer, but I do get that, like, oh, you have all of that. And so of course we're like, let me listen to this playlist from when I was in 11th grade. And there was like, my biggest worry was, can I get this 2-page paper done in an hour before class?
They're just, someone will do like a docu-series on us, or just Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like even too, I'm like, oh my God. Well, speaking of the pandemic and stuff, I feel like that is when I started to realize that, or consciously, I always have this conversation with myself. Did I always have anxiety and I didn't know it? Or did I start
Mm.
having anxiety during that time? Because
Um, Probably it's always been there, but then it just tightened because of it. I mean, like when you think about like those first few months and I remember because I was still going into the radio station, I was very fortunate to be able to, excuse me, be able to have a job, and not get laid off during that time. But there was like one day, maybe 2 or 3 weeks in, when I was driving and I didn't have a far drive. And my first inclination when I got in the car was, oh, it's a Wednesday. So I don't have any events or anything after my morning show. So let me just go to Target. You can't go to Target. Let me go to Walmart. You can't go to Walmart. Let me go to you can't go anywhere. And it was just like, oh my God, like we're stuck. We're stuck. And I was in a townhouse with my boyfriend, who's now my husband, and we had two roommates. And so we were all just there on top of each other. And so it's like at first it was like fun. It's like a big sleepover and we're all here every weekend together. And then it was like it started to like the vice started to tighten. And then the election started to like ramp up, and then it was the whole vaccine. And so it's like, of course we all like probably had a little underlying anxiety, and then that just heightened everything. And so of course now 3 years later we're all like basket cases because we haven't truly processed that we literally thought the world was ending. I mean, when you really think about it, like there was no one on the roads, you couldn't like travel was done. I mean, like when you like now we can joke about it, but it was fucking scary. Like it truly felt like we were living in a movie. And so for us to just all of a sudden be like, everything's fine, we're normal, back to normal. Like, yes, great. I'm so glad it's back to normal. But that was a pretty traumatic, depending upon where you lived. I was in Florida. So by June, we were like, what's a pandemic? What happened? But for other places that were locked down for a long time, like that was pretty fucking traumatic. And we've never really processed that because, of course, as a society, we just keep on going, one foot in front of the other. But like, that was really scary what we went through.
Like I said, and even just having this conversation, it's like I've kind of like compartmentalized it somewhere. But to kind of switch gears, kind of sort of, just because I feel like I could talk to you and not really get away from the radio, which I'm so interested in. But how did you get into radio?
So I've always been a radio nerd. I actually just bought a shirt that I just came in the mail yesterday. It says radio nerd. That's literally in like all my bios and everything. I just always loved hearing people come through those two little speakers in your car, laughing and telling stories and interacting with callers and playing games and giving away prizes and then doing bigger than life events. And then having access to artists and stuff back then. So I literally, when I didn't even understand what they were saying, because I didn't understand the adult humor, I still knew that like they were laughing and I enjoyed it. And so when I was young, I would literally like lock myself in my room with my little tape player, and I would like record myself doing the Miguel show, and I would be like the host and the callers, and then I would like record a song on the radio and then hit record to be like, that was Hanson with Bob on the Miguel show.
I love that.
I loved all of that. And my mom, because I was this little black kid in Atlanta, and she was like, well, that sounds like a fun hobby. But what you gonna do with your life? But thankfully, my middle school in Atlanta, when we moved back to Atlanta when I was 11, they had a radio station that was a mile radius around the middle school. The top country DJ in Atlanta at the time, Moby, his son was in my grade. And so they started the radio station, and Moby came in once a week and sort of schooled us on how to be better announcers. And so that was sort of like my first sort of like, I see what it looks like to be a radio person, not just hear it. Because remember, this is 1997. I mean, we had internet, but like it wasn't,
What it
there
is
were
now.
resources to like look up who people were. Radio stations didn't have websites back then.
Mhm.
So being able to talk to him. And so I was always the kid that was like, hey, Moby, how are you? How'd you get to do? I want to do what you do. And so he sort of took me under his wing and sort of started to teach me about radio stuff, how to do it or whatever. So when I got to high school, we had a high school radio station that broadcasted to the cafeteria. And so I like signed up and I did the media tech route and had so much fun doing that. And there was a morning show in Atlanta that I grew up listening to that I would bother the host of that show all the time and email him and call in to the show all the time. And so I was like, this is what I want to do with my life. This is what I want to study. So I went to college for radio and did that. I got my first real radio job when I was a freshman in college at this classic rock radio station in South Georgia, WDMG, the big dog, rocking in South Georgia's backyard, where obviously I was the only Black person that ever worked at that radio station. But you couldn't tell me nothing. Like I was like, I'm at a real radio station. So I did that during my first 2 years of college. Then I went to Georgia Southern University where they had a college radio station there, joined that. And then I started interning at a what's now my company, iHeart. Back then it was Clear Channel, and it was in Savannah. And so I started interning there during my last 2 years of college. And by the time, right before I graduated, they were like, we got a full-time job for you. And so by the grace of God, I've somehow managed to keep myself employed in this business since 2007.
Wow, that's awesome. And that you really like, it sounds like at almost every different little point of your life, like that was, you were doing it or having that mentor. That's wild. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's really interesting. When I just did my 20-year high school reunion this summer, seeing people that I had not seen in a long time. And then one of the guys, Daryl, he was like, I just really remember you always having a plan for your life and how you talked about wanting to be on the radio or being in politics or being on TV. And like you
knew it.
You do it, and just seeing you then and being like, okay, like whatever, like how the hell are you going to be on the radio? So like now you do it, like, and it's so interesting to hear that because, you know, when you just live your life, it's just, I mean, I love it, but it is a job and you're tired and you have life that you have to deal with. And to sort of have that moment of introspective of like, holy shit, like I really did like sit down at my little computer on my AOL and my little, you know, blog spot and type out my blog back then and be like, I want to be on the radio one day and I want to have my own show and I'm going to move all over the country and be like, oh, wow, I really did it. It's a really cool it was a really cool full circle moment.
That's awesome. For real. Like I said, and it sucks because like I'm on a time limit because I could talk to you forever, but I really could. But what was it like? I know that you and Holly were located in the Tampa area, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what was that like to, you know, find out you guys were going to Charlotte?
There are probably 3 different moments in my life that I knew that I was making a life-changing decision. Mm-hmm. And whichever way I went, it was going to be very painful. And it kind of sucked a little bit because like, so just for a little backstory. So like we'd been in Tampa for 7 years. And my goal and my job and what I do is I always want us as a morning show to become a part of the fabric of the community. Like if a shooting happens in my city where I'm doing a radio show, or if the team wins the Super Bowl, you turn to us to get the beat of what's happening in the city. And we have worked really, really, really hard to be in a top 20 market. And we did it. Like we got there. Like to me, I felt that when the Super Bowl was in Tampa, and the Bucks were in it. And one of the local, like the top news station was like, hey, can we have y'all on to like talk about the halftime show? And like, I remember sitting down and being like, oh my God, we've reached that point where the TV station is reaching out to get our perspective on like what's happening in our city. Like, that's what you want. You want your city to depend on you. So to get to that point, and then for another company to come along and be like, we've been watching you, we see you, we don't know if you've really been taken care of. And so we just want to shoot our shot and just see. We at first were like, we're good, we're comfortable, we don't need you.
Yeah.
And then we have an agent who helps guides our career. And she's like, okay, I know you're thinking about comfort and like where you are, but like, let's sort of pull back and look at the bigger picture of things. And this is after the pandemic, when we've all just gone through this most traumatic thing. And so I'm thinking to myself, well, I mean, yeah, we've reached that point, but like, what's next? Like, do I just keep doing this for another 15 to 20 years? Like, is there any excitement in this? Like, what can we do? And so there was 2 or 3 months of Holly and I going back and forth, trying to figure out what are we going to do. And so I remember we sat down on her birthday, January 1st of 2022. And we were like, all right, let's do the pros and cons list that we do for every decision we've made together, because we worked together for 15 years. We wrote pros and cons for both, for the company and station we were with, for where we are now. And we said, this is going to be the hardest thing we've done, and it's going to be painful. And everyone in the industry, all of our fan members that listen to us in Tampa are going to be like, what the fuck? But for us, we have to make this leap of faith. When we finally made that decision, it was one of the hardest decisions we've ever made, because having a city just depend on you, and then for all of a sudden to sort of, because it's radio and you can't do this like week-long goodbye, they don't allow, we got to say bye, but it was literally like, hey, we have a big announcement at 9:00 tomorrow. We have a big announcement at 9:00. And there was like 1 hour where we got to say bye. And so we still get, every now and then, it's been almost 2 years, people that's like, what happened to y'all? Like, why'd you leave? Like, it just, you feel like you've betrayed your audience. But what we've had to explain to people is that, like, it's also our lives. And we had to do what was best for us, even though it sucks for you. But you listen to us for that little bit of time, but this is our entire lives. So that was one of the hardest decisions that we made, you know, to move to Charlotte and to be with iHeartRadio.
Wow. And so, I mean, once you guys made the move, what is your, and I always ask people this regardless of like, what's your thoughts on Charlotte? What do you think of Charlotte?
So I'm going to give you 2 answers, and I promise I'll be quick because I can talk your ass off.
Oh, me too. Me too. I still have like 5 more questions that I won't get in, but.
Right. When we first moved here, to be 100% honest with you, I was like, we have made the worst decision of our lives, because we moved in February of 2022. Now, keep in mind, here's where my mind was. I had just gotten married January 22nd of that year, gone on a honeymoon with my husband. We had let the company know a week before my wedding that we were leaving. Did the wedding, honeymoon, came back, took a week on the air to talk about the wedding and the honeymoon. And then that Friday, we announced that we were leaving. This was February of 2022. So it was warm, it was sunny. Drive here 2 weeks later to Charlotte. It was cold, it was gray. And I was like, okay, this is fine. It's further north. I'm from Atlanta, so I'm used to this sort of weather. And so keep in mind, we've been in Tampa for 7 years. So we could just throw out a topic of like, hey, you know, what's blah, 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 like a really convoluted story. And we'd get phone calls. I think that first week we were like, we've got Jonas Brothers or some tickets to something. There was like 2 calls. And I was like, okay, I knew this was going to happen, but it feels different because I'm stressed the fuck out. And so it was really hard at first. And then too, from a personal aspect of like walking away from a family, your chosen family that you built. So that was the first part. Now, a year and a half later, I love it. I absolutely love it. Like, the people here have been so warm. They have embraced us. They have moved faster than our Tampa fam did, when it comes to our show and just, getting in on everything that we do. It's still building, but we've made friends here that have become really close and to become our chosen family. So it has been absolutely fantastic. But those first 6 months, I was like,
what the fuck? Yeah.
We have made a grave error.
I can only imagine. I'm from here, but I lived in Florida for some time. So like just even the vibe of Florida, and like you don't deal with, for the most part, obviously you get your rain, but you don't really deal with like the seasons, and it's just a vibe in itself. So that alone I get, not even the other part of, you've created a family and all of that.
And then too, we got married, and then 3 weeks later, I'm bringing my husband along with me too. This is our first move together. He knew when we got together that could be part of the equation. But by that time in our relationship, we thought, I'm going to be in Tampa. We're going to be here for the rest of our lives, and this will be great. We'll retire, move to Key West, it'll be fantastic. And then I'm like, nope, we going to Charlotte, bitch.
So I want to give you an opportunity. Do you want to give a shout out to your social media or anything where people can find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can find me at Miguel Fuller on Instagram, on Be Real. For you that are watching, I'm on Peloton, Miguel Fuller on there. Love doing that. Also, we have a podcast too outside of our on-air show called Miguel and Holly Uncensored. We're on Monday. We do it Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and we drop a new episode at noon every week.
That's what's up. Well, so my last segment of questions, which I'm trying to decide which one I want to explore, because like I said, because of the time crunch, but have you ever seen a ghost or like a UFO or something unexplained that you can share?
No, and if I did, I would close my eyes. I am definitely, so like a ghost, I wouldn't be that afraid of. Like, I would be like more curious. But if I saw an alien, I would shit myself. Like, I don't know why, but like, I feel like with a ghost or a spirit, you could somewhat communicate with them, or you could be like, let me call a priest, or we have a psychic medium on our show that deals with, people that have passed. What the fuck do you do with the alien? Like, what? You can't say anything. You can't get a gun. Like, you're just shit out of luck. So I have not seen any of those, and I hope I never see an alien.
Well, if you do, let me know. Holler.
Have you seen one?
It's so funny. I have only one, and it's not even why I asked this question. I just love all that stuff. I real quick was in Charleston with my sister and a good friend, and it was like daytime, right? So it's not even, you think of ghosts like nighttime, out like sweating our ass off, walking around. We finally go down this like side street one way, and I see this guy coming towards me, which in my mind looks like someone from my social studies books, like looks like someone from like the Civil War era, right? But I'm like, Charleston is so bizarre. Like maybe they're doing like reenactments or something. I'm not like, oh, like literally, I've had so many weird things. Like, okay, whatever, like freak. Yeah. But I wasn't scared or anything. I wasn't scared, which is weird. But anyway, so he's coming in our direction. We're gonna pass. I've been staring at him. My sister and my friend are up above me. And as we're going to like intersect, like as he's going to like pass by me, I blink and he's gone. He's gone.
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
And there's nowhere for him to go. It wasn't like, oh, he ducked, but I always tell people the weirdest part is I blocked it out for a couple of years.
Really?
I went and told my sister and the friend when we got to the stop sign. I'm like trying to explain to them, and they're of course like, me. I'm just like, okay, Katie, like, and that was it. And I swear I blocked it out for a couple of years until I started asking people on my show about it, and it like came up. It was that to me is the most bizarre part. I guess it was like low-key traumatic or something.
Yeah, to see that, and then for them to all of a sudden just be gone, because then you're questioning your own sanity, and you're like, wait, did I just see what I thought I saw, or did I just make that up in my head? Like, what's going on here?
So
Oh, I got goosebumps.
7 minutes, but I know a lot. Obviously, you guys have created like community here in Charlotte and Tampa when people feel like they want to call and explain a situation to you and get y'all's advice. And was wondering, do you have like a top one like crazy story? Like of like, is this real?
Yes, there are two. Okay, so there's one from like years and years and years ago. We do this bit called Blown Off, where you go on a date, you don't get a call back, we call that person to find out why. And there was this one that I haven't even been able to find the audio of this one from like 2015, where the girl said she didn't call the guy back because he was an alien shapeshifter. And we were like, girl, you so crazy. Like, what's the real reason? Like, girl, you, and she was like, no. Like when he blinks, his eyes like go back. And we were like, all right, girl, well, this is entertaining, so we're gonna air it. It's fine. So then when we were done with the phone call, because we record all these blown off, I was like, we're gonna play this regardless because it's entertaining, but you can tell us though, like, and she was like, no, like seriously, like there are alien shapeshifters among us. And I was like, I hope I never run into you in real life because you are freaking me out right now. So to me, that has always been like my number one crazy. The second one that we just heard last week was of a girl who was dating a guy for 7 years. She just found out he cheated on her and had a baby with someone else and had been paying the baby mama hush money. And so when the girl found out that he'd been cheating and paying hush money, she broke up with him. And so we were like, who does this? Like this, you probably just wrote this in just to be funny. Well, a week later, she calls in. We do a contest that's something completely different. And we have her on hold. And I like to warm the callers up beforehand. And I'm just like, hey, girl. So like, you know, Katie, how's your week? What are you going to do this weekend? And she was like, oh, you know, a little something, something. And then I was like, why are you being so shady, girl? We're not on the air. And she was like, are you sure? Are you recording right now? And I was like, no. And she was like, I'm the girl who called in about the hush money. That was me. And then she gave us more details that she couldn't put in the text. And I was like,
stop.
So when people say, y'all make this up, I'm like, no, like that was her. Like she told us even more crazy shit. And I was like, I have a boring life compared to our listeners. Like, seriously.
That is something. Well, and I guess going back to the shapeshifter, it makes me think of that girl that's like, I'm telling you, that lady back there is. That makes me think of like,
that motherfucker back there. When I saw that video the morning after everyone was sharing it, and I was sitting in the bathroom at 3:00 in the morning, and I literally thought the devil was about to like pop up out of that. When I think about what I thought I was gonna see,
are just adamant that kind of, I don't know if I can, I mean, it's entertaining, like I said, but I don't know if I can, I don't know. But again, I'm all about, yeah. I don't know if I can.
There's something out there.
True that. Okay, since I still have a little bit more time, since you are so connected to music, if TRL was on right now, what would be the number one video?
I want to say
no wrong answers.
No, so here's what it would be is Morgan Wallen Last Night. Would want it to be would be Dua Lipa Dance the Night Away. That's what I would want it to be. But country's having a moment right now. And I'm not mad at it because there's some country music I like. Morgan Wallen, I'm kind of like, but it would probably be Morgan Wallen.
That's fair. Maybe Dua Lipa would be like at least in the top like 5 though on the countdown.
Because it'd be Morgan Wallen, Luke Combs, and then Dua Lipa.
Yeah, that's fair. Oh my God, that's it. What'd you think?
I had such a great time. Great questions. As a person who asks questions and interviews people, you did a fantastic job.
Thank you so much. That means a lot.
Absolutely. A++. I've done podcasts before where
it's awkward.
Well, they had me on as a guest, and then I only spoke for like 30 seconds. And I was like, did y'all really want me to talk or did you want to just talk at me? So, just fantastic. Thank you.
I appreciate you, and I hope to meet you in person one day.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
What up?